Tonight we drift into the world of legendary Pokémon, those rare and remarkable beings that tower above all others in myth and power. These creatures are woven into the very soul of the Pokémon universe, standing as guardians of time, space, nature, and the forces that shape existence itself. Their stories reach back through generations, whispered in ancient texts and carved into forgotten ruins, each one holding secrets that have captivated trainers for decades. As the evening settles around you, we will wander slowly through their histories, their hidden details, and the moments that make them unforgettable. There is no rush in this journey, only the gentle unfolding of knowledge meant to carry you softly toward rest. Let the quiet facts wash over you like waves on a distant shore, each one a small discovery in the calm darkness. Before you drift off, maybe tap subscribe and tell me where you're watching from tonight. So settle into your pillow, let your breathing slow, and allow yourself to be drawn into the legends that have stood the test of time. In the beginning, there were only a handful of legendary Pokemon, but each one felt monumental, like discovering something sacred that few trainers would ever encounter. The concept itself was revolutionary. Creatures so rare that most players would see them only once, in a single fleeting moment that demanded preparation, patience, and a deep respect for their power. The legendary birds of Kanto were among the first to capture our imaginations. Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres each ruled over their own elemental domain with quiet authority, hidden away in places that required determination to reach. Articuno dwelled deep within the icy labyrinth of seafoam islands, where the air grew cold and the water currents twisted in confusing patterns. Finding it meant navigating through darkness and frost, pushing boulders to block rushing streams, and finally standing before a creature of pure frozen elegance. Its body shimmered like freshly fallen snow under moonlight, and its long tail feathers trailed behind like ribbons of ice. The cry it made was haunting, a sound that seemed to echo from another world entirely. In battle, Articuno moved with grace, summoning blizzards that could freeze opponents solid, its ice-type attacks cutting through the warmest defenses. Many trainers remember the tension of that first encounter, the careful strategy required to weaken it just enough without causing it to faint, knowing they might never see it again. Zapdos took residence in the abandoned power plant, a place humming with electricity and danger. The walls crackled with static energy, and wild electric-type Pokémon roamed the corridors, adding to the sense that this was a place where humans no longer belonged. Deep within this structure, Zapdos perched like a sentinel, its spiky feathers resembling bolts of lightning frozen in time. When it spread its wings, the air itself seemed to vibrate with power. Its signature move, Thunder, could call down devastating strikes from the sky, and its speed made it a formidable opponent in any battle. Trainers who caught Zapdos often spoke of the satisfaction that came with finally cornering such an elusive and powerful creature, the Master Ball or Ultra Ball thrown with trembling hands, hoping that this time luck would be on their side. Moltres was the final member of the trio, and it made its home deep within Victory Road, the ultimate challenge before the Pokémon League. This placement felt intentional, as if the game itself was rewarding those who had come so far with one last treasure to discover. Moltres radiated heat, its body wreathed in flames that never dimmed, its wings spreading like a phoenix rising from ashes. Fire-type moves came naturally to it, and its ability to learn powerful attacks like Fire Blast made it a devastating addition to any team. But beyond their battle prowess, the legendary birds represented something more. They were symbols of patience and exploration, proof that the world of Pokémon held secrets worth searching for. Each one required the player to venture off the beaten path, to explore hidden caves and forgotten structures, to take risks in the hopes of finding something extraordinary. This sense of discovery, of stumbling upon a legend that had been waiting quietly for someone brave enough to seek it out, became a cornerstone of what made legendary Pokemon so special. As we drift a little deeper tonight, let us turn our attention to Mewtwo, perhaps the most iconic legendary Pokemon of all. Unlike the birds, Mewtwo was not a force of nature, but a creation of human ambition, a being born from science and experimentation. The story behind its existence is one of tragedy and hubris, a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing God. Scientists discovered Mew, a mythical Pokemon said to contain the genetic material of every species, and sought to harness that power by creating a clone. What they created was something far beyond their control. Mewtwo was designed to be the ultimate Pokemon, faster and stronger than anything that had come before, but they failed to account for one critical factor: intelligence. Mewtwo was not just powerful, it was self aware, capable of thought and emotion, and deeply resentful of the humans who had brought it into existence for their own purposes. In the games, Mewtwo resided in Cerulean Cave, accessible only after becoming champion, a final test for trainers who had proven themselves worthy. The cave itself was dark and maze like, filled with high level wild Pokemon that could easily overwhelm an unprepared team. But for those who persevered, the reward was immense. Mewtwo's base stats were unmatched in the original games, with special attack and speed that allowed it to sweep through entire teams with ease. Its psychic type moves, combined with access to powerful coverage options, made it a force that could dominate both in game battles and competitive play. In the anime, Mewtwo's character was explored even further in the movie Mewtwo Strikes Back. This film gave depth to a creature that could have been just another villain, showing its struggle with identity and purpose. Mewtwo questioned why it existed, whether it was merely a copy or something with its own value and meaning. The climax of the movie, where Mewtwo and Mew clashed in a battle that was as much philosophical as it was physical, left a lasting impact on fans. It was a story about acceptance, about learning that the circumstances of one's birth do not define their worth. The contrast between Mewtwo and Mew is striking. Where Mewtwo is angular and imposing, Mew is small and playful, almost kitten like in appearance. Mew is said to be the ancestor of all Pokemon, carrying within it the DNA of every species, making it a living archive of genetic diversity. Unlike Mewtwo, Mew is curious rather than angry, mischievous rather than calculating. It floats through the world unseen, observing and learning, only revealing itself to those it deems worthy. In the games, Mew was originally obtainable only through special events or glitches, which added to its mystique. The truck rumor, the famous playground myth that claimed Mew could be found by moving a truck near the SS Anne, became one of the most enduring pieces of gaming folklore. Even though it was not true, the very existence of such rumors spoke to how much players wanted to believe that Mew was out there, hidden somewhere in the game, waiting to be discovered by someone clever enough to find it. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Generation 2 brought with it the Johto region and a deeper sense of mythology woven into legendary Pokemon. The tower duo, Ho-Oh and Lugia, became central figures in the region's history, each tied to one of Ecruteak City's most iconic landmarks. Ho-Oh, the rainbow Pokemon, was said to soar high above the clouds, leaving behind a trail of shimmering multicolored light. Its feathers were rumored to bring eternal happiness to those who saw them, and legends claimed that anyone who witnessed Ho-Oh flying overhead would be blessed with good fortune. In Johto lore, Ho-Oh was once the guardian of the Brass Tower, a magnificent structure that reached toward the heavens. But tragedy struck when lightning set the tower ablaze, and the fire raged for 3 days before rain, some say brought by Lugia, finally extinguished the flames. The tower was reduced to ashes, and Ho-Oh departed to live among the clouds, leaving behind only the memory of its presence. But the story did not end there. According to legend, 3 Pokemon perished in the flames, and moved by compassion, Ho-Oh revived them, giving birth to the legendary beasts Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. This act forever linked Ho-Oh to the trio it brought back to life, creating a mythology that spanned multiple legendary Pokemon and gave depth to the region's history. In the games, reaching Ho-Oh required climbing the bell tower, a ceremonial journey that felt like a pilgrimage, each floor bringing the player closer to the summit where Ho-Oh awaited. Its signature move, Sacred Fire, was a powerful fire-type attack that had a high chance of burning opponents, symbolizing the purifying flames from its own legend. Ho-Oh's design drew inspiration from the Fengguang, a mythical Chinese bird that represents virtue, grace, and prosperity. Its rainbow-colored wings and majestic presence made it one of the most visually striking legendary Pokemon ever created. Lugia, on the other hand, represented a very different kind of guardian. Known as the diving Pokemon, Lugia dwelled in the depths of the ocean, far from human eyes. Its massive wings could whip up storms capable of lasting for days, so it chose to remain hidden beneath the waves to avoid disturbing the delicate balance of nature. In Johto's lore, Lugia was tied to the Whirl Islands, a treacherous cluster of rocky isles surrounded by powerful currents and churning waters. Only trainers who possessed the Silver Wing could navigate these dangers and reach Lugia's lair deep beneath the surface. Lugia's design resembled a combination of dragon, bird, and plesiosaur, with a sleek white body and blue accents that gave it an otherworldly appearance. Its signature move, Aeroblast, struck with incredible precision and power, cutting through opponents with the force of a hurricane. In the anime, Lugia made a memorable appearance in the movie Pokemon the Movie 2000, where it played a central role in restoring balance between the 3 legendary birds. The film portrayed Lugia as a wise and ancient being, almost like the ocean itself had taken form, with a deep, calming voice that spoke of patience and understanding. The dynamic between Ho-Oh and Lugia is often seen as a reflection of duality. Ho-Oh is radiant and visible, a symbol of home and renewal, while Lugia hides in the deep, intervening only when the world is in danger. They are two sides of the same coin, each essential to maintaining the balance of nature in Johto. The legendary beasts, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, are among the most fascinating legendary Pokemon in the series, not only because of their tragic origin, but because of their unique behavior in the games. Unlike most legendaries that remain stationary in a single location, the beasts roamed the Johto region after their initial appearance, moving from route to route unpredictably. This roaming mechanic added an entirely new layer of challenge for players. You could be traveling along Route 37, only for Raikou to suddenly appear in a wild encounter and just as quickly flee after a single turn if you were not prepared. Tracking them down required careful planning, the use of repels to avoid weaker encounters, and a bit of luck to corner them again. Entei, the volcano Pokemon, was said to have been born from the magma of a volcano. Legends claimed that whenever Entei roared, a volcano somewhere in the world erupted. Its body radiated intense heat, and its mane resembled clouds of smoke or ash, giving it a regal and fearsome appearance. In battle, Entei's mastery over fire made it a devastating opponent, and its signature move, Sacred Fire, shared not only with Ho-Oh, was not only powerful, but carried the chance to burn opponents, adding an extra layer of danger to its attacks. Entei's design drew inspiration from lions and other big cats, combined with volcanic and mythological elements, creating a creature that felt both primal and divine. Raikou, the thunder Pokemon, represented the lightning that struck the brass tower on that fateful night. Its body was sleek and agile, built for speed, and its roar was said to echo like the sound of an approaching storm. A purple cloud like mane flowed over its back, while its jagged lightning shaped tail reflected its electric power. In battle, Raikou's combination of speed and electric type attacks allowed it to strike quickly and overwhelm opponents before they could react. It embodied the sudden, overwhelming force of a lightning bolt, fast, unpredictable, and devastating. Raikou's design drew from big cats and storm imagery, giving it a sense of raw, natural power. Suicune, the Aurora Pokemon, was tied to the rain that finally ended the fire. It was said to embody the pure north wind, cleansing polluted waters wherever it ran. Its design was elegant and flowing, with a mane that rippled like water and a graceful, almost otherworldly presence. In lore, Suicune wandered the land, purifying any polluted water it found, making it a symbol of healing and renewal. Its signature move, Aurora Beam, reflected the shimmering light of the northern lights, adding beauty to its strength. In the anime, Suicune was portrayed as a serene and noble Pokemon, appearing only to those it deemed worthy. In Pokemon Crystal, Suicune was given special treatment in the storyline. Unlike the other two beasts, it did not roam randomly, but appeared in fixed locations throughout the game, eventually leading to a dramatic encounter at the Tin Tower. This helped cement Suicune's role as the most central of the trio in Johto's legend. The story of Entei, Raikou, and Suicune is a reminder that even in tragedy, renewal is possible. The fire that destroyed the brass tower could have been the end of their story, but instead it became the beginning of a new one. Ho-Oh's intervention transformed them into protectors, giving them a purpose beyond their own survival. The act of catching all three after hours of tracking, false starts, and near misses remains one of the most satisfying achievements in any Pokemon journey. Their roaming nature, their connection to Ho-Oh, and their unique designs make them some of the most memorable legendary Pokemon in the series. Slowly, the story widens as we move into Generation 3 and the Hoenn region, where legendary Pokemon took on an even grander scale. The Weather Trio, Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, were not just guardians of a region, but embodiments of the natural forces that shaped the world itself. Groudon, the continent Pokemon, represented the land and the power of the earth. Its body was covered in rocky armor, with veins of molten lava running through its form, giving it the appearance of a walking volcano. Legends claimed that Groudon had the power to expand continents, raising land masses from the ocean floor with its presence. In battle, Groudon's ability, Drought, summoned harsh sunlight that boosted fire-type moves and weakened water-type attacks, reflecting its role as a creature of heat and earth. Its signature move, Precipice Blades, caused massive spikes to erupt from the ground, devastating opponents with the raw power of the earth itself. Kyogre, the sea basin Pokemon, was Groudon's counterpart, a massive creature that ruled the oceans. Its body was a deep blue, resembling both a whale and a fish, with red markings that glowed like veins of energy. Legends said that Kyogre could expand the seas, summoning endless rain and causing floods that reshaped coastlines. Its ability, Drizzle, brought rain to the battlefield, boosting water-type moves and creating an environment where it thrived. Its signature move, Origin Pulse, unleashed a torrent of water that could sweep away anything in its path. The conflict between Groudon and Kyogre was central to Hoenn's mythology. According to ancient texts, the two clashed in a battle that threatened to destroy the world, with Groudon's droughts evaporating the seas and Kyogre's floods drowning the land. Their battle raged on until a third legendary intervened, Rayquaza, the sky-high Pokémon. Rayquaza descended from the ozone layer, where it lived in solitude, and used its power to calm the two titans, restoring balance to the world. After the battle, Groudon and Kyogre retreated to deep slumber, hidden away in caves where they would remain dormant until disturbed again. Rayquaza returned to the sky, watching over the world from above, ready to intervene if the balance was ever threatened again. Rayquaza's design is one of the most iconic in the series. Its long, serpentine body, green scales, and yellow markings give it a dragon-like appearance, and its ability to Mega Evolve without the need for a Megastone made it one of the most powerful Pokémon in competitive play. Its signature move, Dragon Ascent, was a devastating flying-type attack that allowed it to break through even the strongest defenses, though it lowered Rayquaza's own defenses in the process, a small price to pay for such overwhelming power. The Weather Trio's story is one of balance and the dangers of unchecked power. Groudon and Kyogre, on their own, are forces of nature that can reshape the world, but without something to mediate between them, their conflict leads only to destruction. Rayquaza represents the necessity of balance, the force that steps in when two extremes threaten to tear everything apart. This theme of balance would become a recurring motif in legendary Pokémon lore, appearing again and again in later generations. In Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, players encountered the Weather Trio as part of the main story, with Team Magma seeking to awaken Groudon in Ruby and Team Aqua seeking to awaken Kyogre in Sapphire. The climax of the game took place in the Cave of Origin, or the Seafloor Cavern, where the player had to confront the awakened legendary and either capture it or defeat it to restore balance. In Pokémon Emerald, the story expanded to include Rayquaza, with the player needing to ascend Sky Pillar to awaken it and bring it to Satopolis City to calm the raging battle between Groudon and Kyogre. This moment, standing before Rayquaza at the top of Sky Pillar, knowing that the fate of the region rested on your ability to capture or defeat it, remains one of the most memorable sequences in the entire series. The remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, introduced Primal Reversion, a mechanic that allowed Groudon and Kyogre to revert to their original, more powerful forms. Primal Groudon gained the ability Desolate Land, which created harsh sunlight so intense that water-type moves evaporated before they could even land. Primal Kyogre gained Primordial Sea, which brought heavy rain that extinguished fire-type moves entirely. These abilities made them even more dominant in battle, reinforcing their roles as unstoppable forces of nature. Rayquaza, meanwhile, gained the ability to Mega Evolve mid-battle, transforming into Mega Rayquaza without needing to hold a Mega Stone, a unique trait that showcased its status as the mediator and most powerful of the trio. There's a quiet comfort in remembering moments like these, battles that felt larger than life, creatures whose power was not just measured in stats, but in the stories they carried. The Weather Trio remains some of the most beloved legendary Pokémon in the series, not just for their strength, but for the mythology that surrounds them, the sense that they are not just Pokémon, but elemental forces that have existed since the dawn of time. As we continue this gentle journey, let us turn to Generation 4 and the Sinnoh region, where legendary Pokémon reached truly cosmic heights. The creation trio, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, were not just powerful guardians or forces of nature, but beings tied to the very fabric of the universe itself. According to Sinnoh's ancient lore, preserved in places like the Canalave Library and the Celestic Town ruins, the universe began with the Pokemon Arceus, the original one. From Arceus came the birth of Dialga, the master of time, and Palkia, the master of space. Together, they shaped reality as we know it, with the flow of time and the vastness of space becoming stable because of their existence. The third member of the trio, Giratina, was created alongside them, but was banished for its violent and destructive nature, sent to rule over the distortion world, a parallel dimension where the normal laws of physics did not apply. Dialga, the temporal Pokemon, is a massive dinosaur like creature clad in steel and adorned with a diamond on its chest. Its deep blue body and metallic armor give it a regal, almost divine appearance. In lore, Dialga's heartbeat is said to control the flow of time. It can accelerate, slow, or even stop time entirely, though such feats are rarely witnessed by mortals. In battle, its steel and dragon typing makes it incredibly durable, and its signature move, Roar of Time, delivers an earth-shattering blast of energy, though it requires Dialga to rest afterward, a nod to the immense effort such an attack takes. Palkia, the spatial Pokemon, has a sleek pearl-colored body with magenta accents and a frame that suggests both strength and grace. As the ruler of space, Palkia can warp dimensions, create spatial rifts, and travel to distant places in an instant. Its mastery over space allows it to bend reality, an ability reflected in its signature move, Spatial Rend, a devastating slash that can tear through the air itself. In Sinnoh mythology, Palkia's presence keeps the vast dimensions of the universe from collapsing into chaos. Giratina, the renegade Pokemon, stands apart from its siblings in both form and temperament. Often depicted as draconic and serpentine with 6 legs and ghostly wings, Giratina is the master of antimatter and the distortion world, a parallel dimension where gravity shifts unpredictably and landscapes defy logic. Banished by Arceus for its violent nature, Giratina watches over this alternate realm, ensuring the balance between worlds remains intact. In the games, encountering Giratina in the distortion world in Pokemon Platinum is a surreal experience, with upside-down landscapes and gravity-defying platforms creating an environment unlike anything else in the series. Its ghost and dragon typing, along with its signature move, Shadow Force, give it a haunting and unpredictable presence in battle. The Creation Trio's roles are steeped in themes of balance and order. Dialga governs the river of time, ensuring that past, present, and future remain connected. Palkia maintains the boundaries of space, preventing dimensions from folding in on each other. Giratina, while feared, is just as essential. It represents the mirror side of existence, the shadow that gives shape to the light. Without all three, the stability of the Pokemon universe would be threatened. In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the version you played determined which legendary you would face in the climactic moment atop Spear Pillar. Dialga appeared in Diamond, Palkia in Pearl, each accompanied by a grand, unforgettable battle theme. In Platinum, the story expanded to include Giratina, whose emergence from the distortion world created one of the most unique and atmospheric sequences in the series. The trio's designs reflect their cosmic origins. Dialga's diamond chestplate references the adamant orb, a key item that enhances its powers. Palkia's pearl-like armor is tied to the lustrous orb, and Giratina has the Griseous orb, which allows it to shift between its altered and origin forms. These orbs not only boost their abilities, but serve as symbols of their connection to Arceus and the creation of the world. In competitive play, all 3 members of the Creation Trio are formidable. Dialga's steel typing gives it valuable resistances, making it one of the few dragon types that can stand up to fairy-type attacks. Palkia's high speed and special attack make it an aggressive threat, capable of countering even powerful water or fire types. Giratina's immense bulk and utility moves make it an incredible defensive wall, though its offensive sets can catch opponents off guard. Beyond the games, the Creation Trio has left a mark on other media. In Pokemon Giratina and the Sky Warrior, Giratina takes center stage, revealing its role as a guardian against threats to the balance between worlds. The film explores its connection to the distortion world and its complicated relationship with Dialga and Palkia, showing that even a banished legendary has a purpose and a sense of duty. The Creation Trio remains some of the most awe-inspiring legendary Pokemon ever created, not just because of their immense power, but because of the mythology they carry. They are beings that exist on a scale beyond human comprehension, creatures that have been present since the dawn of time itself, shaping the universe with every heartbeat, every breath, every movement through space and time. Before we continue this gentle journey, take a moment to let these stories settle, to feel the weight of legends that span generations and cross the boundaries of reality itself. The Pokemon universe is vast, filled with creatures great and small, but the legendary Pokemon stand apart, reminders that there are forces in this world far greater than any single trainer could ever hope to control. Generation 5 brought with it the Unova region and a new perspective on legendary Pokemon, one that asked deeper questions about truth, ideals, and the nature of balance. The Tau Trio, Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem, were born from a single dragon that once existed in ancient Unova. According to legend, this original dragon was split in two when twin heroes, each with their own vision for the future, could not agree on whether truth or ideals should guide their people. Reshiram, the vast white Pokemon, embodied truth. Its body was covered in white feathers that resembled flames, and its tail could generate intense heat capable of scorching the earth. Reshiram's presence was said to bring clarity, burning away lies and falsehoods with its fire. Its signature move, Blue Flare, unleashed a torrent of blue flames that could incinerate anything in its path, symbolizing the purifying nature of truth. Zekrom, the deep black Pokemon, embodied ideals. Its body was covered in dark scales, and its tail functioned like a turbine, generating electricity that could power entire cities or bring them to their knees. Zekrom's presence was said to inspire ambition and drive, pushing people to pursue their ideals no matter the cost. Its signature move, Bolt Strike, called down a devastating lightning bolt that struck with the force of pure conviction. The conflict between Reshiram and Zekrom mirrored the conflict between the twin heroes, and their battle raged until both dragons exhausted themselves, retreating into deep slumber in the form of the Lightstone and Darkstone. These stones were hidden away, waiting for a hero who could awaken them and prove themselves worthy of wielding the power of truth or ideals. Kyurem, the boundary Pokemon, was what remained of the original dragon after Reshiram and Zekrom split away. It was an empty husk, a creature of ice and loneliness that dwelled in the giant chasm, waiting for the day it could reunite with its missing halves. Kyurem's body was jagged and incomplete, with frozen flesh and a haunting appearance that spoke of its fractured nature. Its signature move, Glaciate, released a wave of freezing energy that slowed opponents and dealt significant damage. In Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, Kyurem was given the ability to fuse with Reshiram or Zekrom using the DNA splicers, creating either White Kyurem or Black Kyurem. These fused forms were immensely powerful, combining Kyurem's ice typing with Reshiram's fire or Zekrom's electricity, creating some of the most fearsome legendary Pokemon in the series. The Tau Trio's story is one of division and the search for unity. Reshiram and Zekrom represent opposing philosophies, truth and ideals, but neither is complete without the other. Keurim represents the emptiness that comes from being divided, the longing to be whole again. Their story asks players to consider which they value more, the pursuit of objective truth or the drive to realize one's ideals, and whether it is possible to find balance between the two. In Pokemon Black and White, the player's choice of version determined which legendary dragon they would encounter. Black players faced Reshiram, while white players faced Zekrom, with the opposing dragon being captured by the game's rival, N. This choice reflected the game's themes of duality and perspective, showing that truth and ideals are not enemies but different sides of the same coin. The Swords of Justice, Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, and the hidden member Keldeo were another group of legendary Pokemon introduced in Unova. These four were inspired by the Three Musketeers, with each one embodying a different aspect of justice and honor. Cobalion, the Iron Will Pokemon, was the leader of the group, a steel and fighting type with a calm, disciplined demeanor. Its body was covered in metallic armor, and its presence commanded respect. Terrakion, the Cavern Pokemon, was a rock and fighting type, known for its immense physical strength. It was said to have charged through castle walls to protect Pokemon during times of war, using its horns to break through any obstacle. Virizion, the grassland Pokemon, was a grass and fighting type with a graceful, almost regal appearance. It moved with speed and precision, using razor-sharp leaves to strike down enemies who threatened the innocent. Keldeo, the Colt Pokemon, was the youngest member of the group, a water and fighting type who looked up to the others as mentors. Over time, Keldeo trained to prove itself worthy of joining their ranks, eventually gaining the ability to transform into its resolute form after learning the move Secret Sword. The Swords of Justice were not just powerful fighters, but symbols of protection and honor, creatures who stood against oppression and fought for those who could not fight for themselves. Their story added depth to Unova's mythology, showing that legendary Pokemon were not just forces of nature or cosmic entities, but beings with purpose and conviction. Generation 6 introduced the Kalos region and the Aura Trio, Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde. These three legendary Pokemon represented the concepts of life, destruction, and balance, creating a mythology that felt both ancient and deeply relevant. Xerneas, the life Pokemon, was a majestic deer-like creature with multicolored antlers that glowed with radiant energy. It was said to have the power to grant eternal life, and legends claimed that when Xerneas' life came to an end, it would transform into a tree and sleep for 1,000 years before being reborn. Its signature move, Geomancy, allowed it to draw power from the earth, boosting its stats and preparing for devastating attacks. Xerneas embodied creation and renewal, a force that brought life wherever it went. Yveltal, the destruction Pokemon, was a massive bird with dark red and black feathers that resembled a combination of a raven and a wyvern. It was said to have the power to absorb the life force of everything around it, and when its life came to an end, it would transform into a cocoon and drain the life from the surrounding area before being reborn. Its signature move, Oblivion Wing, drained the health of opponents and restored Yveltal's own, symbolizing its role as a creature of destruction and consumption. Yveltal embodied death and endings, a force that cleared away the old to make room for the new. Zygarde, the Order Pokemon, was the balance between Xerneas and Yveltal. It existed in multiple forms, from its 10% form, a small dog-like creature, to its 50% form, a serpent made of cells and cores, to its complete form, a towering humanoid figure that resembled a guardian. Zygarde's role was to monitor the ecosystem and intervene when the balance between life and destruction was threatened. Its signature move, Thousand Arrows, could strike even flying type Pokemon, grounding them and bringing them within reach. Zygarde embodied order and stability, the force that ensured neither creation nor destruction went too far. The Aura Trio's mythology was deeply tied to the themes of Pokemon X and Y, games that explored the concept of balance and the consequences of pursuing power without restraint. Xerneas and Yveltal represented the natural cycle of life and death, two forces that seemed opposed but were actually interdependent. Without death, life would become stagnant. Without life, death would have no meaning. Zygarde stood watch over both, ready to step in if either threatened to upset the balance that allowed the world to thrive. As the night deepens and our journey continues, we turn to Generation 7 and the Alola region, where legendary Pokemon took on new forms and new meanings. The guardian deities, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini, were protectors of the four islands that made up Alola, each one watching over its own domain with a mix of benevolence and fierce territoriality. Tapu Koko, the land spirit Pokemon, was the guardian of Melemele Island. Its body was encased in a shell that resembled a tribal mask, and when it opened, it revealed a sleek, bird-like form crackling with electricity. Tapu Koko was known for its speed and unpredictability, sometimes helping humans and sometimes challenging them to test their strength. Its signature move, Nature's Madness, reduced the opponent's health by half, a powerful tool that could turn the tide of battle in an instant. Tapu Lele, the land spirit Pokemon of Akala Island, was a psychic and fairy type known for its playful yet dangerous nature. It scattered glowing scales that could heal or harm, depending on its mood, and legends warned that angering Tapu Lele could bring disaster. Its signature move, also Nature's Madness, shared the same devastating effect, showing that all the guardian deities possessed this unique power. Tapu Bulu, the guardian of Ula Ula Island, was a grass and fairy type with immense physical strength. It was said to have a calm demeanor, but would not hesitate to destroy villages if humans encroached too far on nature's territory. Its signature move, again Nature's Madness, reinforced the idea that the guardians, while protectors, were also enforcers of balance. Tapu Fini, the guardian of Pony Island, was a water and fairy type known for its mystical fog that could purify or confuse those who entered it. Tapu Fini was the most reclusive of the four, rarely showing itself and preferring to observe from a distance. Its signature move completed the set, showing that all four guardians shared this connection. The guardian deities were not just powerful Pokemon, but symbols of Alola's culture and history. They represented the relationship between humans and nature, the idea that protection comes with responsibility and respect. Their presence added depth to Alola's mythology, showing that legendary Pokemon were not just rare encounters, but integral parts of the world's fabric. Solgaleo and Lunala, the box legendaries of Pokemon Sun and Moon, represented the sun and moon, two celestial bodies that have fascinated humanity since the dawn of time. Solgaleo, the Sune Pokemon, was a massive lion-like creature made of light and steel, its mane radiating like the sun itself. It was said to devour the sun, its body glowing with radiant energy that could banish darkness. Its signature move, Sunsteel Strike, allowed it to ignore abilities and strike with the full force of the sun. Lunala, the moony Pokemon, was a bat-like creature with wings that resembled a crescent moon. It was said to call down the moon, its body absorbing light and transforming it into energy. Its signature move, Moongeist Beam, also ignored abilities, striking with the cold, eerie light of the moon. Together, Solgaleo and Lunala represented the cycle of day and night, two forces that seemed opposite but were part of the same endless dance. Necrozma, the Prism Pokemon, was introduced as a third member of this trio in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Necrozma was a creature of pure light that had lost its radiance, becoming a dark, jagged shell of its former self. It sought to absorb light from other sources, and in its desperation, it could fuse with Solgaleo or Lunala to become Duskmane Necrozma or Dawn Wings Necrozma. In its ultimate form, Ultra Necrozma, it became a being of pure brilliance, a dragon of light that towered over all others with its immense power. Necrozma's story was one of loss and the search for wholeness, a being that had been broken and sought to reclaim what it had lost. Generation 8 brought the Galar region and new legendary Pokemon that drew from British mythology and folklore. Zacian and Zamazenta, the hero duo, were said to have saved Galar from a great calamity known as the Darkest Day. Zacian, the warrior Pokemon, wielded a sword in its mouth, its form elegant and swift. Zamazenta, the fighting Pokemon, bore a shield on its body, its presence commanding and protective. Together, they represented the concepts of offense and defense, two sides of heroism that worked in harmony to protect the region. Eternatus, the gigantic Pokemon, was the source of the Darkest Day, a creature from space that brought with it the power of Dynamax. Its body was serpentine and skeletal, with a core of swirling energy that pulsed with immense power. Eternatus represented the unknown, the dangers that come from beyond the stars, and the need for heroes to rise and defend their home. The Crown Tundra expansion introduced Calyrex, the king Pokemon, a psychic and grass type that once ruled over the tundra with wisdom and grace. Calyrex could bond with either Glastrier, the ice horse Pokemon, or Spectrier, the ghost horse Pokemon, to become Ice Rider, Calyrex, or Shadow Rider Calyrex, each form offering different strengths and abilities. Calyrex's story was one of a forgotten king, a being that once commanded respect but had faded into legend, waiting for someone to restore its power and help it protect the land once more. Generation 9 introduced the Paldea region and brought with it legendary Pokemon that challenged our understanding of time itself. Koraidon and Miraidon, the Paradox Pokemon, represented the past and the future, two temporal forces that existed outside the normal flow of time. Koraidon, with its prehistoric appearance and feathered crest, seemed to have stepped directly from an ancient era, its body built for raw physical power and primal combat. Miraidon, sleek and technological, appeared to come from a distant future where Pokemon and machinery had merged into something entirely new. These two legendary Pokemon served as companions throughout the player's journey in Paldea, not just as powerful allies, but as friends who grew alongside the trainer. Their presence challenged the traditional role of box legendaries, showing that legendary Pokemon could be partners rather than prizes to be captured at the end of a long quest. The four treasures of ruin, Wo-Chien, Chien-Pao, Ting-Lu, and Chai-Yu, were dark and malevolent legendary Pokemon sealed away in shrines across Paldea. Each one was born from human greed and negative emotions, taking physical form as objects of immense power that brought disaster. Wo-Chien, formed from a wooden tablet, represented the grudges recorded in writing. Chien-Pao, formed from a sword, represented the hatred of those who wielded it. Ting-Lu, formed from a ritual vessel, represented the fear and paranoia of ancient ceremonies. Chi-Yu, formed from ceremonial beads, represented the jealousy and envy that consumed their bearers. These four legendary Pokemon served as cautionary tales, reminders that legendary power could come from darkness as easily as from light. Their presence in Paldea added a layer of moral complexity to legendary Pokemon lore, showing that not all legends are heroic. The Loyal Three, Okidogi, Munkidori, and Fazandipiti, were introduced in the Teal Mask expansion as legendary Pokemon who were celebrated as heroes, but whose true nature was far more complicated. They were said to have saved a village from danger, but as the story unfolded, players discovered that their heroism was built on deception. The Loyal Three had actually stolen the power they possessed, taking it from another Pokemon and using it to pose as saviors. Their story explored themes of truth and perception, asking players to consider whether the appearance of heroism was enough or whether true heroism required genuine selflessness. Ogerpon, the masked Pokemon, was revealed to be the true hero of the story, a gentle creature who had been misunderstood and villainized despite its good intentions. Ogerpon could change its form by wearing different masks, each one granting it a different typing and different strengths. The Wellspring mask gave it water typing, the Hearthflame mask gave it fire typing, the Cornerstone mask gave it rock typing, and its true form remained grass type. Ogerpon's story was one of redemption and the power of truth, showing that even legendary Pokemon could be misjudged. The Indigo Disc expansion introduced Terrapagos, the tiny turtle Pokemon that held the secret to the terrestrial phenomenon. Despite its small size, Terrapagos possessed immense power, able to transform into its terrestrial form and later its stellar form, each transformation revealing more of its crystalline beauty and energy. Terrapagos represented the mysteries that still remained in the Pokemon world, secrets waiting to be uncovered by curious trainers willing to explore the depths of Area Zero. As we drift through these final moments, let us reflect on what makes legendary Pokemon so enduring. They are more than just rare encounters or powerful allies in battle. They are storytellers, carrying with them the myths and histories of the regions they inhabit. They challenge us to think about balance and responsibility, about the consequences of power, and the importance of respect for forces greater than ourselves. From the earliest days of Kanto, where the legendary birds first captured our imaginations, to the distant future represented by Miraidon in Paldea, legendary Pokemon have been the thread that ties together the vast tapestry of the Pokemon universe. Each generation has added new layers to this mythology, new perspectives on what it means to be legendary, and new stories that resonate with themes both timeless and timely. The legendary birds taught us that exploration and persistence could lead to extraordinary discoveries. Mewtwo challenged us to consider the ethics of creation and the nature of identity. The Tower Duo and the legendary beasts showed us that tragedy could lead to renewal. The Weather Trio reminded us of the raw power of nature and the need for balance. The Creation Trio took us beyond the physical world and into the realm of cosmic forces. The Tao Trio asked us to choose between truth and ideals. The Aura Trio explored the cycle of life and death. And so the tradition continues, with each new generation bringing new legendary Pokemon that add depth and wonder to a universe that has captivated millions of trainers across the globe. These creatures are not just entries in a Pokedex, but symbols of the imagination, proof that even in a digital world, we can find stories that move us, challenge us, and stay with us long after the game is turned off. There is something deeply comforting about legendary Pokemon, the way they stand as constants in a world that is always changing. No matter which generation you started with, no matter which region feels most like home, there is a legendary Pokemon whose story resonates with you, whose design captures your imagination, whose presence in battle fills you with excitement and awe. The pursuit of legendary Pokemon has always been about more than just catching them all. It has been about the journey, the stories we create along the way, the moments of triumph when we finally succeed after countless attempts, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that we have connected with something truly special. These are the moments that define our experiences as trainers, the memories we carry with us long after the credits have rolled. As trainers, we are drawn to legendary Pokemon because they represent the pinnacle of what the Pokemon world has to offer. They are challenges to overcome, mysteries to unravel, and companions to cherish. Whether we encounter them in caves deep beneath the earth, atop mountains that scrape the sky, or in dimensions that exist outside our understanding of reality, each encounter is a reminder of why we fell in love with Pokemon in the first place. The bond between a trainer and a legendary Pokemon is unique. Unlike regular Pokemon that can be found anywhere, legendary Pokemon demand something more from us. They require preparation, strategy, patience, and sometimes a bit of luck. But when we finally succeed in capturing one, the sense of accomplishment is unmatched. We have not just added another entry to our Pokédex, we have proven ourselves worthy of wielding power that most trainers will never experience. In competitive battling, legendary Pokemon have shaped the metagame since the very beginning. Their presence in teams creates new strategies and forces opponents to adapt. The decision to allow or ban certain legendary Pokemon in competitive formats has led to countless debates among players, discussions about fairness, skill, and the nature of competition itself. These debates are part of what makes the Pokemon community so vibrant, so engaged, so passionate about the game we all love. Beyond the battles, legendary Pokemon have inspired countless works of art, stories, and creative expressions from fans around the world. Artists have reimagined them in new styles, writers have crafted tales that expand on their lore, and musicians have composed pieces inspired by their themes. Legendary Pokemon have become cultural icons, recognized even by those who have never played a Pokemon game, symbols of a franchise that has touched every corner of the globe. The trading card game has given legendary Pokemon some of their most stunning visual representations. Full art cards, secret rares, and special promotional prints have turned these creatures into collectibles that fans treasure. The artwork on these cards often captures moments of drama and power, showing legendary Pokemon in action, their attacks mid launch, their eyes filled with determination or serenity depending on their nature. In the anime, legendary Pokemon have provided some of the most memorable moments in the series. From Ash's encounter with Ho-Oh in the very first episode, a moment that foreshadowed his journey across multiple regions, to the climactic battles featuring legendary Pokemon that threatened the world itself, these creatures have been central to the most important story arcs. The anime has given them personalities, voices, and motivations that make them feel alive, transforming them from game sprites into characters with depth and emotion. The movies have arguably done the most to elevate legendary Pokemon in popular culture. Films like Mewtwo Strikes Back, Pokemon Heroes featuring Latios and Latias, The Rise of Darkrai, and many others have placed legendary Pokemon at the center of stories about friendship, sacrifice, and the bonds that connect all living things. These films have made us laugh, cry, and cheer, showing that legendary Pokemon are not just powerful beings, but characters capable of evoking genuine emotional responses. Latios and Latias, the Eon Pokemon, deserve special mention for their unique place in legendary lore. These two dragon and psychic type siblings could turn invisible and were known for their incredible speed and intelligence. Latios was typically depicted as the protective older brother, while Latias was more playful and emotional. Their ability to understand human speech and their gentle nature made them some of the most approachable legendary Pokemon, creatures that could form genuine friendships with humans, rather than remaining distant and untouchable. In Pokemon Heroes, their story was told with particular beauty and sadness. Latios sacrificed itself to save the city of Altomare, transforming into a new Soul Dew to replace the one that had been shattered. This moment, where a legendary Pokemon chose to give its life to protect others, showed that legendary status did not make one invincible or untouchable, but rather placed an even greater burden of responsibility on those who possess such power. The late guardians of Sinnoh, Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf represented knowledge, emotion, and willpower, respectively. These three small legendary Pokemon were said to have been created by Arceus to bestow these gifts upon humanity, making them essential to the development of human consciousness itself. Uxie, the knowledge Pokemon, was said to have the power to erase the memories of anyone who looked into its eyes, a defense mechanism to protect the secrets it held. Mesprit, the emotion Pokemon, was known for bringing the first emotions to humans, teaching them how to feel joy, sadness, and all the complex feelings that make life meaningful. Azelf, the willpower Pokemon, was said to have given humans the determination to overcome challenges, the strength to push forward even when faced with impossible odds. Together, these three represented the core aspects of what it means to be human, and their presence in Sinnoh's mythology suggested that legendary Pokemon were not just observers of humanity, but active participants in its development. Cresselia and Darkrai formed an interesting pair, representing dreams and nightmares. Cresselia, the lunar Pokemon, was a graceful swan-like creature that brought peaceful dreams to those it visited. Its presence was said to dispel nightmares and bring comfort to the troubled. Darkrai, the pitch-black Pokemon, was its counterpart, a creature that caused nightmares wherever it went. But Darkrai's story was more complex than simple villainy. In the movie The Rise of Darkrai, it was revealed that Darkrai caused nightmares not out of malice, but as an unavoidable consequence of its existence. It had isolated itself to protect others from its power, showing that even legendary Pokemon that seemed dark or dangerous could have noble intentions. This complexity made Darkrai one of the most sympathetic legendary Pokemon, a creature burdened by power it never asked for and judged by others who did not understand its true nature. Heatran, the Lava Dome Pokemon, was unique among legendary Pokemon for being available in both male and female forms. This volcanic creature dwelled in the depths of Stark Mountain, its body composed of molten metal that allowed it to withstand temperatures that would melt ordinary Pokemon. Heatran's fire and steel typing made it an exceptional defensive wall in competitive play, able to check numerous threats while dishing out powerful attacks of its own. Regigigas, the colossal Pokemon, was said to have towed continents with ropes, shaping the world in ancient times. It created the legendary titans Regirock, Regis, and Registeel as its servants, each one representing a different fundamental element. Regigigas slept for centuries, waiting to be awakened by trainers who could gather all three of its creations. When it finally stirred, its immense power was tempered by the slow start ability, a gameplay mechanic that represented the time it took for this ancient giant to fully awaken and reach its true potential. The legendary titans themselves, Regirock, Regis, and Registeel, were mysterious Pokemon sealed away in chambers across the Hoenn region. Unlocking them required solving puzzles based on Braille, a clever touch that encouraged players to think outside the game and research real-world writing systems. Regirock was composed entirely of rocks that it could reassemble if damaged. Regis was frozen at temperatures so low that not even fire could melt it. Registeel was made of a metal harder than any known substance, its body having been tempered by pressure deep underground over thousands of years. Generation 5 added Regieleki and Regidrago to this group. Regieleki was a being of pure electrical energy, so powerful that ancient people sealed it away in a temple to prevent its destructive potential from being unleashed. Regidrago was composed of crystallized dragon energy, said to be an incomplete creation of Regigigas, a legendary Pokemon that was never finished but still possessed formidable power. Shaman, the gratitude Pokemon, was a small hedgehog like creature that could transform between its land form and sky form. In its land form, Shaman was gentle and unassuming, a grass type that spread flowers and cleansed polluted areas. When given a Gracidea flower, it could transform into sky forming, sprouting wings and gaining flying type, becoming more confident and adventurous. Shaman's story was about transformation and gratitude, about how appreciation and kindness could unlock new potential. Manaphy and Phione represented the mysteries of the ocean. Manaphy, the seafaring Pokemon, was born from a special egg found deep in the sea. It had the unique ability to bond with any Pokemon or human, swapping their minds temporarily with its signature move, Heart Swap. This power symbolized empathy, the ability to see the world through another's eyes. Phione was unusual in that it could be bred from Manaphy, though it could never evolve into Manaphy itself, creating an interesting dynamic where a legendary Pokemon could produce offspring that were almost but not quite legendary themselves. Victini, the victory Pokemon, was said to bring victory to any trainer who befriended it. Its psychic and fire typing was unique, and its signature move, V-Create, was one of the most powerful fire type attacks in the game, though it lowered Victini's defenses after use. Victini represented hope and the belief that success was possible even in the face of overwhelming odds. Its cheerful demeanor and association with winning made it a favorite among trainers looking for that extra bit of confidence. Meloetta, the melody Pokemon, could shift between its aria form and pirouette form by using the move Relic Song. In aria forme, it was a normal and psychic type with a graceful musical appearance. In pirouette forme, it became normal and fighting type, its movements resembling an energetic dance. Meloetta represented the arts, showing that legendary Pokemon were not just warriors or guardians, but also creators and performers who brought beauty into the world. Genesect, the Paleozoic Pokemon, was an ancient bug-type Pokemon that had been resurrected and modified by Team Plasma with technological enhancements. Its most notable feature was the cannon on its back, which could be fitted with different drives to change the type of its signature move, Technoblast. Genesect represented the intersection of ancient life and modern technology, raising questions about whether it was right to alter a Pokemon so drastically, even if it increased its power. Diancie, the Jewel Pokemon, was a mutated form of Carbink, a rock and fairy type that could crystallize carbon in the air to create diamonds. Diancie could mega evolve, becoming even more radiant and powerful, its body covered in shimmering pink diamonds. It represented transformation and rarity, showing that even among already rare Pokemon, there could be individuals who stood out as truly one of a kind. Hoopa, the mischief Pokemon, had two forms separated by power and intent. In its confined form, it was a small psychic and ghost type that used its rings to pull pranks and steal objects from great distances. In its unbound form, it became psychic and dark type, growing massive and gaining access to immense power that it had trouble controlling. Hoopa's story was about restraint and the danger of power without responsibility, showing that even playful legendary Pokemon could become threats if their abilities were not kept in check. Volcanion, the steam Pokemon, was a unique fire and water type, the only Pokemon with this type combination. It lived in remote mountains and used steam to power itself, expelling explosive clouds that could level entire forests. Volcanion was said to be a protector of Pokemon habitats, using its power to defend natural areas from human encroachment. Its story highlighted the tension between civilization and nature, a theme that had appeared throughout legendary Pokemon lore. Magearna, the artificial Pokemon, was created 500 years ago by a scientist as a gift. Its body was mechanical, with a Pokeball like core that contained its true essence. Magearna could sense the emotions and life force of others, making it deeply empathetic despite being artificial. It represented the idea that consciousness and feeling were not limited to naturally born creatures, that something created by human hands could still possess a genuine soul. Marshadow, the Gloom Dweller Pokemon, was a fighting and ghost type that lived in shadows and observed the world unseen. It had the ability to copy the movements and techniques of others, making it an incredibly versatile fighter. Marshadow represented humility and the power of observation, showing that strength could come from watching and learning rather than from direct confrontation. Zeraora, the Thunderclap Pokemon, was a pure electric type known for its incredible speed and agility. It could generate powerful electrical currents by scratching its claws together, and its movement was said to be so fast that it appeared as a bolt of lightning. Zeraora lived alone in the wild, rarely interacting with humans, and its presence was considered a sign of approaching storms. Melton and Melmetal were unique in that they were first discovered in Pokemon Go before being added to the main series games. Melton was a small steel type with a body made of liquid metal and a nut for a head. When many Melton came together, they could fuse into Melmetal, a massive steel type with incredible physical strength. This evolutionary line was unusual among legendary and mythical Pokemon, as most did not evolve at all. Zerude, the rogue monkey Pokemon, was a dark and grass type that lived in packs deep within forests. It was known for its aggression toward outsiders, but could form strong bonds with those it accepted. Zerude could heal wounds by wrapping them in vines, and its connection to nature made it a guardian of the forest, much like other legendary Pokemon who protected specific ecosystems. Kubfu and Urshifu represented the path of growth and discipline. Kubfu, the Wushu Pokemon, was a fighting type that trained in the martial arts, and when it completed its training at one of two towers, it could evolve into Urshifu. If it trained at the Tower of Darkness, it became Single Strike Style, a fighting and dark type focused on powerful, singular blows. If it trained at the Tower of Waters, it became Rapid Strike Style, a fighting and water type focused on quick successive attacks. Urshifu's story was about choice and commitment, showing that the path one chose shaped who they would become. Glastrier and Spectrier, the horses that could bond with Calyrex, represented two different aspects of power. Glastrier, the wild horse Pokemon, was pure ice type with immense physical strength and a temperament to match. It was proud and fierce, requiring a strong trainer to earn its respect. Spectrier, the swift horse Pokemon, was pure ghost type with incredible speed and a more aloof demeanor. It moved like a shadow, ethereal and untouchable. Together with Calyrex, they formed some of the most powerful legendary Pokemon in competitive play. Enamorus, the love-hate Pokemon, was a member of the forces of nature, joining Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. It had both incarnate and Therian forms, like its counterparts, and represented the duality of love and jealousy. Enamorus was a fairy and flying type, and its presence completed the quartet, adding a new dimension to their mythology. The forces of nature themselves, Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, were legendary Pokemon that represented different weather phenomena. Tornadus controlled winds, Thundurus controlled thunder and lightning, and Landorus controlled the land and brought fertility to soil. In their Therian forms, they took on more beast like appearances, becoming even more powerful and specialized. These three were known for their role in competitive play, particularly Landorus, which became one of the most used legendary Pokemon in battles due to its excellent stat distribution and move pool. As our journey through the world of legendary Pokemon nears its end, we are reminded that these creatures are more than the sum of their stats, their types, or their signature moves. They are stories given form, myths made real in a digital world that has captured the hearts of millions. Each generation has added to this rich tapestry, introducing new legendary Pokemon that challenge our understanding, expand our imagination, and deepen our connection to the Pokemon universe. The beauty of legendary Pokemon is that they can be whatever we need them to be. To some trainers, they are the ultimate challenge, the final test of skill and preparation. To others, they are companions on a long journey, partners who have shared in every triumph and every setback. To still others, they are reminders of the stories we love, the themes that resonate with us, the values we hold dear. In the quiet of this moment, as your eyes grow heavy and your mind begins to drift, take comfort in knowing that the world of legendary Pokemon will still be there tomorrow, waiting to be explored anew. There will always be another region to visit, another legend to uncover, another mystery to solve. The adventure never truly ends, it simply pauses, giving us time to rest before we embark once more. The legendary Pokemon we have discussed tonight are just a fraction of the incredible diversity that exists within the Pokemon world. Each one carries its own history, its own personality, its own place in the grand narrative that spans generations and regions. Whether you first encountered them on a Game Boy screen in the late 90s or discovered them on a modern console just recently, their impact remains the same. They inspire wonder, they challenge us to think deeper, and they remind us why we fell in love with Pokemon in the first place. Let us pause for a moment and consider the design philosophy that has guided legendary Pokemon throughout the generations. From the beginning, these creatures were meant to feel distinct from ordinary Pokemon, not just in rarity but in presence. Their sprites were larger, more detailed, with animations that commanded attention. Their cries were unique, often deeper or more resonant than those of regular Pokemon, creating an audio signature that players would recognize instantly. The legendary birds of Kanto established many of these conventions. Articuno's cry was a haunting sound that evoked icy winds and desolate tundras. Zapdos's cry crackled with electrical energy, sharp and aggressive. Moltres' cry was a piercing call that suggested both majesty and danger. These audio cues worked in tandem with their visual designs to create a complete sensory experience, one that made encountering a legendary Pokemon feel like a genuine event rather than just another random battle. As technology improved with each generation, so too did the presentation of legendary Pokemon. In Generation 3, when the games moved to the Game Boy Advance, legendary Pokemon gained animated sprites that moved and breathed, adding a new layer of life to their presence. The battle themes that accompanied them became more complex and memorable, with composers crafting tracks that would become iconic in their own right. The Hoenn legendary battle theme, with its urgent drums and soaring melody, perfectly captured the epic scale of facing down creatures like Groudon or Kyogre. The Sinnoh legendary battle theme was even more dramatic, with a sense of cosmic importance that matched the Creation Trio's role in shaping the universe. These musical compositions became inseparable from the legendary Pokemon themselves, so much so that hearing just a few notes could instantly transport players back to those climactic moments. The move to three dimensions in Generation 6 brought with it new opportunities for legendary Pokemon to shine. Fully modeled and animated, they could now move through space in ways that sprites never could. Xerneas's antlers glowed with pulsing light, each color shifting in a mesmerizing display. Yveltal's wings spread wide, casting shadows across the battlefield. The camera angles during battles became more dynamic, allowing players to see legendary Pokemon from perspectives that emphasized their size, their power, their otherworldly nature. Generation 7 continued this trend with legendary Pokemon that interacted with the environment in new ways. Solgaleo and Lunala's animations, when using their signature moves, were spectacular, with Solgaleo gathering solar energy that made the screen itself seem to glow, and Lunala calling down moonlight that bathed everything in an eerie luminescence. These visual flourishes made legendary Pokemon battles feel like spectacles, moments that deserved to be remembered and shared. The designs of legendary Pokemon often draw from real world mythology, folklore, and cultural symbolism, creating creatures that feel both familiar and fantastical. Ho-Oh's connection to the Fenghuang, Lugia's aquatic dragon elements, and the Swords of Justice's reference to the Three Musketeers are just a few examples of how legendary Pokemon serve as bridges between cultures, introducing players to myths and stories from around the world. This cultural resonance is part of what makes legendary Pokemon so compelling. They are not just products of imagination, but reflections of humanity's long history of storytelling, of our need to create myths that explain the world around us and give meaning to the forces we cannot control. In this way, legendary Pokemon carry on a tradition that stretches back thousands of years, adapting it for a modern audience and keeping these stories alive for new generations. The concept of legendary Pokemon has also evolved to include subcategories and distinctions. Mythical Pokemon, for example, are typically event exclusive and even rarer than regular legendaries. Pokemon like Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Deoxys, and others fall into this category. They are often smaller and more whimsical in design than their legendary counterparts, but they carry their own significant lore and are prized by collectors for their exclusivity. Celebi, the time travel Pokemon, is a perfect example of a mythical Pokemon whose story resonates across generations. This small grass and psychic type has the ability to travel through time, appearing in peaceful eras and bringing with it knowledge of the past and future. In the movie Celebi, Voice of the Forest, Celebi's gentle nature and its bond with the forest made it a symbol of environmental conservation and the importance of protecting natural spaces. The fact that Celebi could only be obtained through special events made it feel even more precious, a gift rather than a capture. Jirachi, the Wish Pokemon, awakens once every 1,000 years for 7 days to grant wishes to those pure of heart. Its steel and psychic typing, combined with its adorable appearance and the ribbons that stream from its head, make it one of the most beloved mythical Pokemon. Jirachi's signature move, Doom Desire, is a steel type attack that strikes 2 turns after it is used, symbolizing the delayed gratification of a wish coming true. The movie Jirachi. Wishmaker explored themes of friendship, sacrifice, and the bittersweet nature of temporary connections, showing that even a week could be enough time to form bonds that last a lifetime. Deoxys, the DNA Pokemon, is unique among mythical Pokemon for its ability to change forms at will. Its normal form is balanced. Its attack form trades defense for overwhelming offense. Its defense form becomes nearly impenetrable, and its speed form becomes one of the fastest Pokemon in existence. Deoxys's extraterrestrial origin, having mutated from a space virus, makes it one of the most alien legendary Pokemon, a creature that does not belong to the natural order of the Pokemon world, but has found a place within it, nonetheless. Darkray's counterpart in the realm of dreams, Cresselia, represents the light to Darkray's darkness. While Darkrai causes nightmares involuntarily, Cresselia actively seeks to dispel them, bringing peaceful sleep to those tormented by bad dreams. This duality is a recurring theme in legendary Pokemon, the idea that for every force, there is an equal and opposite force, and that balance requires both to exist in harmony. The concept of version exclusives among legendary Pokemon has been a staple of the series since Generation 2. By having one legendary available in one version and a different legendary in another, the games encouraged trading and collaboration between players. This design decision had social implications, turning the solitary act of playing a video game into a communal experience where friends and strangers alike could connect over their shared love of Pokemon. In Generation 3, this concept was expanded with the introduction of Latios and Latias as roaming legendary Pokemon that were version exclusive. Ruby players could encounter Latios, while Sapphire players could encounter Latias. This not only encouraged trading, but also gave each version its own distinct flavor, making the choice of which game to purchase feel more meaningful. The idea of legendary Pokemon trios and duos has been remarkably consistent throughout the series. Nearly every generation has introduced a trio of legendary Pokemon that share a common theme or mythology. The legendary birds, the legendary beasts, the legendary golems, the lake guardians, the forces of nature, and many others all follow this pattern. These trios often have a master or mediator, a fourth legendary Pokemon that stands above or between the trio, such as Lugia with the birds, Ho-Oh with the beasts, Regigigas with the golems, and so on. This structure creates a sense of order within legendary Pokemon lore, suggesting that even among the most powerful creatures, there are hierarchies and relationships. It also provides narrative scaffolding for the games, giving players multiple legendary Pokemon to seek out within a single region while maintaining a cohesive mythology that ties them all together. The concept of box legendaries, the legendary Pokemon featured on the cover of each game, has evolved significantly over the generations. In the early games, box legendaries like Ho-Oh and Lugia were encountered late in the story and were not central to the plot. Starting with Generation 3 and intensifying in later generations, box legendaries became integral to the main storyline, with evil teams seeking to control or awaken them for their own purposes. This shift reflected a broader change in how Pokemon games approach storytelling, rather than relegating legendary Pokemon to post-game content or optional encounters. They became focal points of the narrative, drivers of conflict and resolution. This gave players a stronger connection to these legendary Pokemon, as they were not just prizes to be won, but characters in their own right, beings whose fate was intertwined with the fate of the region and its inhabitants. Team Rocket's attempts to control Mewtwo in Generation 1 were relatively understated compared to later villainous teams. Team Magma and Team Aqua in Generation 3 sought to reshape the world itself by awakening Groudon or Kyogre, believing they could create a better environment for either land or sea Pokemon. Their idealism, misguided though it was, added depth to their characters and made the conflict feel more meaningful than simple villainy. Team Galactic in Generation 4 took this to an extreme, with Cyrus seeking to use Dialga or Palkia to create an entirely new universe, one without emotion or spirit, which he viewed as the source of all conflict and pain. This nihilistic philosophy, combined with the cosmic scale of his ambitions, made Team Galactic one of the most memorable villainous teams in the series. The battle atop Spear Pillar with Dialga or Palkia chained and the fabric of reality distorting around them, remains one of the most dramatic moments in Pokemon history. Team Plasma in Generation 5 presented themselves as liberators seeking to free Pokemon from human control, but their true leader, Ghetsis, sought to use Reshiram or Zekrom to dominate Unova and impose his will upon it. The twist that N, the character who had befriended the player throughout the game, was a pawn in Ghetsis' schemes, added emotional weight to the climax, making the final battles feel personal rather than just another obstacle to overcome. The Ether Foundation in Generation 7 initially appeared benevolent, a research organization dedicated to caring for Pokemon. The revelation that its leader, Lusamine, was obsessed with Ultra Beasts and willing to endanger her children in the region to pursue them created a villain who was both tragic and terrifying. The involvement of Solgaleo or Lunala in opening Ultra wormholes and the journey to Ultra space itself pushed legendary Pokemon into new narrative territory, showing that their power could take players to entirely new dimensions. Ultra Beasts themselves occupy a unique space in the legendary Pokemon taxonomy. They are not traditional legendary Pokemon, but extra dimensional creatures with their own classification. Pokemon like Nihilego, Buzzwole, Pheromosa, Xurkitree, Celesteela, Kartana, Guzzlord, Poipola, Naganadel, Stakataka, and Blacephalon are all Ultra Beasts, each one representing a different aspect of alien life and defying conventional Pokemon designs. Nihilego, the parasite Pokemon, is a rock and poison type that resembles a jellyfish made of glass. It can take control of other beings by attaching to them, injecting them with neurotoxins that alter their behavior. This body horror element made Nihilego one of the most unsettling Ultra Beasts, a creature that seemed more like something from science fiction than from the typical Pokemon world. Buzzwole, the swollen Pokemon, is a bug and fighting type with an incredibly muscular physique. It flexes constantly, and its absurdly exaggerated proportions make it both intimidating and slightly comical. Buzzwole represents strength taken to an extreme, a creature that exists solely to display its physical prowess. Pheromosa, the lissom Pokemon, is a bug and fighting type that contrasts sharply with Buzzwole. Where Buzzwole is bulky and slow, Pheromosa is sleek and incredibly fast. Its design suggests grace and elegance, a creature that views everything around it with disdain, believing itself to be superior in beauty and speed. Xurkitree, the glowing Pokemon, is a pure electric type that resembles a tangle of wires and light. It can absorb electricity from power plants, growing brighter and more energetic as it feeds. Xurkitree's alien nature is emphasized by its lack of recognizable features, its body being more of a geometric construct than an organic form. Celesteela, the launch Pokemon, is a steel and flying type that resembles a bamboo shoot combined with a rocket ship. It is massive and incredibly heavy, yet capable of launching itself into space by burning gases stored in its body. Celesteela's design draws from the legend of Princess Kaguya, a Japanese folktale about a bamboo cutter who discovers a tiny girl inside a glowing bamboo stalk, adding a layer of cultural depth to this already strange creature. Kartana, the drawn sword Pokemon, is a grass and steel type made entirely of folded paper, yet its edges are sharper than any blade. Despite its small size and lightweight build, Kartana can cut through anything, from steel beams to stone walls. Its design is minimalist yet elegant, proving that legendary Pokemon do not need to be large or imposing to be powerful. Guzzlord, the Junkivore Pokemon, is a dark and dragon type that appears to be nothing but a massive mouth surrounded by claws. It consumes everything in its path, from buildings to vehicles to trash, never satiating its hunger. Guzzlord represents gluttony and consumption taken to a horrifying extreme, a creature that exists only to devour. Poipole and its evolution. Naganadel are poison type ultra beasts that resemble a combination of wasp and syringe. Poipole is playful and curious, but when it evolves into Naganadel, it becomes a formidable dragon and poison type with incredible speed and special attack. The fact that Poipola can be obtained as a gift and trained like a regular Pokemon blurred the line between Ultra Beasts and traditional Pokemon, suggesting that these extra dimensional creatures were not so different from the Pokemon of our world. Stakataka is a rock and steel type Ultra Beast that appears to be a colony of smaller creatures stacked together to form a wall like structure. It can rearrange itself to adapt to different situations, making it both a defensive fortress and a tactical challenge. Its design emphasizes the idea that Ultra Beasts operate on different principles than regular Pokemon, with some functioning more like hive minds than individual beings. Blacephalon is a fire and ghost type Ultra Beast that resembles a clown with a detachable head that it can use as a bomb. It dazzles opponents with colorful displays before detonating its head, creating a spectacle that is both mesmerizing and deadly. Blacephalon's theatrical nature makes it one of the most memorable Ultra Beasts, a creature that treats battle like a performance. The introduction of Ultra Beasts expanded the concept of what legendary Pokemon could be, showing that the Pokemon universe was even larger and more varied than players had imagined. These creatures challenged our assumptions, forcing us to reconsider what made a Pokemon and whether beings from other dimensions could be understood or captured using the same methods that worked on native species. Regional forms of legendary Pokemon have also become a topic of interest in recent generations. While most legendary Pokemon remain consistent across appearances, some have been given alternate forms that reflect different aspects of their power or different cultural interpretations. The legendary birds, for example, received Galarian forms in the Crown Tundra expansion, reimagining Articuno as a psychic and flying type, Zapdos as a fighting and flying type, and Moltres as a dark and flying type. These Galarian birds were not the same individuals as the Kanto birds, but separate legendary Pokemon that happened to share similar names and roles. Galarian Articuno moved with eerie grace, its psychic powers allowing it to create illusions and disorient prey. Galarian Zapdos was a brawler charging across the wild area with incredible speed and challenging anything in its path. Galarian Moltres exuded an aura of malevolence, its dark typing reflecting a more sinister interpretation of the legendary bird archetype. The existence of regional variants among legendary Pokemon opened up new possibilities for storytelling and world building. It suggested that legendary Pokemon were not unique individuals, but rather archetypes that could manifest differently in different regions, shaped by local mythology and environmental factors. This made the Pokemon world feel even more vast and interconnected, with parallel legends existing in distant lands. Legendary Pokemon have also played significant roles in Pokemon spin off games, often in ways that differ from their appearances in the main series. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, legendary Pokemon serve as bosses, allies, and even playable characters, giving players a chance to experience the world from their perspective. Seeing legendary Pokemon as characters with dialogue, emotions, and personal struggles added depth to their portrayals and made them feel more relatable. In Pokemon Go, legendary Pokemon are primarily encountered through raid battles, where groups of trainers must work together to defeat and capture them. This social aspect transformed legendary encounters into community events, with players gathering in parks and public spaces to take on these challenges together. The excitement of successfully raiding a legendary Pokemon and the disappointment of it fleeing after the battle created emotional highs and lows that mirrored the tension of legendary encounters in the main series games. Pokemon Unite featured several legendary Pokemon as playable characters, allowing players to control them in team based battles. Seeing legendary Pokemon like Zeraora and Hoopa adapted for a MOBA style game required reimagining their abilities and roles, but it also showcased their versatility and appeal across different genres. The Pokemon trading card game has been instrumental in keeping legendary Pokemon at the forefront of popular culture. Special sets featuring legendary Pokemon often become highly sought after, with cards like Shining Charizard, Gold Star Pokemon, and full art legendary cards commanding high prices in the collector market. The artwork on these cards often depicts legendary Pokemon in dramatic poses or settings, capturing moments of power, grace, or serenity that resonate with fans. Certain legendary Pokemon cards have become iconic in the competitive TCG scene as well. Cards like Mewtwo X, Darkrai X, and Arceus Vistar have defined entire formats, with deck archetypes built around their abilities and attacks. The interplay between legendary Pokemon cards and the evolving metagame creates a dynamic environment where strategies rise and fall based on new releases and rule changes. Legendary Pokemon have also inspired countless fan creations, from artwork and animations to music covers and cosplay. The Pokemon fan community is one of the most creative and passionate in all of gaming, and legendary Pokemon are frequent subjects of this creativity. Artists reimagine them in different art styles, from realistic interpretations that emphasize their power and majesty to cute chibi versions that highlight their more endearing qualities. Musicians have covered and remixed legendary Pokemon battle themes, adding new instruments, changing tempos, or blending themes from different generations to create unique compositions. These fan works keep legendary Pokemon relevant even between game releases, ensuring that they remain in the public consciousness and continue to inspire new generations of fans. Cosplayers have taken on the challenge of bringing legendary Pokemon to life through elaborate costumes and props. From Articuno wings made of foam and fabric to full body Rayquaza suits that tower over convention floors, these creations demonstrate the dedication and skill of fans who want to embody the legendary Pokemon they admire. The process of creating such costumes often involves months of work, researching materials, constructing armatures, and painting details, all to capture the essence of these digital creatures in physical form. The cultural impact of legendary Pokemon extends beyond the games themselves. They have appeared in commercials, on merchandise ranging from plush toys to clothing, and in collaborations with other brands and franchises. Legendary Pokemon have been featured in museum exhibits about video game art and design, recognized as significant contributions to visual and interactive storytelling. In Japan, legendary Pokemon have been featured in regional promotion campaigns, with certain legendary Pokemon designated as mascots for specific prefectures or events. These campaigns often include special distributions of these Pokemon in games, further cementing their connection to real world places and creating a sense that legendary Pokemon are not just fictional beings, but part of the cultural landscape. The philosophical themes that legendary Pokemon embody have also sparked discussions among fans and scholars. The Tao Trio's exploration of truth versus ideals touches on fundamental questions about epistemology and ethics. The Creation Trio's roles as masters of time, space, and antimatter raise questions about the nature of reality and the limits of human understanding. The Aura Trio's cycle of life and death invites contemplation of mortality and renewal. These themes give legendary Pokemon a depth that transcends their role as powerful creatures to capture and battle with. They become vehicles for exploring big ideas in accessible ways, allowing players of all ages to engage with concepts that might otherwise feel too abstract or overwhelming. In this way, legendary Pokemon serve an educational function, introducing players to philosophical and scientific ideas through the lens of fantasy and adventure. The future of legendary Pokemon is as boundless as the imagination of the developers who create them. Each new generation brings new legends, new mysteries, and new opportunities to explore what it means to be legendary. As technology continues to advance, the ways in which we interact with legendary Pokemon will evolve as well, from more immersive augmented reality experiences to virtual reality encounters that place us face to face with these towering beings. But no matter how much the technology changes, the core appeal of legendary Pokemon will remain the same. They represent aspiration, the desire to encounter something extraordinary and prove ourselves worthy of it. They represent wonder, the thrill of discovering something hidden and rare, and they represent connection, the bonds we form with these digital creatures and with the other trainers who share our passion. As you drift off to sleep tonight, know that the world of legendary Pokemon is vast and ever expanding, filled with stories waiting to be told and adventures waiting to be experienced. Whether you are a veteran trainer who has caught every legendary Pokemon across multiple generations or a newcomer just beginning your journey, there is always more to discover, always another legend waiting to unfold. The competitive battling scene has been profoundly shaped by legendary Pokemon since the earliest days of organized play. Understanding how these powerful creatures function in competitive formats requires appreciating not just their raw stats, but the intricate web of abilities, moves, and strategies that define high level play. Legendary Pokemon often serve as either powerful effects that teams must prepare for, or as centerpieces around which entire strategies are built. In the earliest competitive formats, Mewtwo's dominance was so absolute that many tournaments simply banned it outright. Its combination of speed and special attack allowed it to sweep through entire teams with ease, using moves like Psychic, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt to hit a wide range of opponents for super effective damage. The only reliable answers to Mewtwo were other Mewtwo or a handful of normal types that resisted its psychic attacks, creating a metagame that felt stale and centralized. This led to the development of tiering systems in competitive Pokemon, with legendary Pokemon often placed in Uber tier, a format where anything goes, and the most powerful Pokemon face off against each other. This allowed players who wanted to use legendary Pokemon to do so while preserving lower tiers for those who preferred a more balanced experience. The creation of these tiers was one of the most important developments in competitive Pokemon history, allowing the game to flourish as an esport with diverse strategies and team compositions. Lugia's defensive capabilities made it a staple of competitive play in formats that allowed legendary Pokemon, with its massive physical and special defense stats, combined with access to recovery moves like Roost, Lugia could wall a significant portion of the metagame. Its signature move, Aeroblast, while powerful, was often less important than its ability to absorb hits and stall out opponents. Sets built around Calm Mind, which boosted Lugia's special attack and special defense, turned it into an unstoppable force that could set up against defensive teams and sweep once it had accumulated enough boosts. The Weather Trio revolutionized competitive play with their abilities to set permanent weather conditions. Before Groudon and Kyogre, weather was typically set manually using moves like Rain Dance or Sunny Day, which lasted only a limited number of turns. Groudon's Drought and Kyogre's Drizzle abilities created weather that lasted indefinitely, completely transforming how teams were built and battles were fought. Groudon teams often centered around sun boosted fire types and solar beam users who could fire off immediate grass type attacks without needing to charge. Kyogre teams focused on water types that became nearly unstoppable in the rain, with moves like Thunder gaining perfect accuracy and fire types being heavily neutered. The clash between Groudon and Kyogre teams became one of the defining matchups in competitive play, with players needing to carefully manage weather wars and position their Pokémon to take advantage of favorable conditions. Rayquaza's introduction of the Airlock ability, which negated all weather effects, made it a valuable tool for teams that wanted to operate without relying on weather. However, Rayquaza's true power lay in its raw offensive stats and move pool, which allowed it to threaten nearly any opponent with the right coverage moves. Its ability to Mega Evolve without holding a Mega Stone, a trait unique to Rayquaza, made it even more dominant, as it could hold a Choice Band or Life Orb to further boost its already incredible damage output. The Creation Trio brought even more diversity to competitive play. Dialga's Steel typing gave it crucial resistances that most dragon types lacked, allowing it to check fairy types and other dragons more effectively. Its signature move, Roar of Time, was incredibly powerful but left Dialga vulnerable due to the recharge turn, making it a high risk, high reward option. More commonly, Dialga ran sets with Dragon Pulse, Thunder, and Flash Cannon, using its excellent special attack and coverage to threaten a wide range of opponents. Palkia's superior speed compared to Dialga made it more suited to offensive play. Its access to Spatial Rend, which had a high critical hit rate, made it unpredictable and capable of breaking through even the sturdiest defensive Pokémon. Palkia's unique water and dragon typing gave it resistances to fire, water, and steel, making it difficult to revenge kill without dedicated checks. Giratina's two forms, Altered and Origin, gave it flexibility depending on team needs. Altered form. Giratina was incredibly bulky, with defenses that rivaled Lugia's, making it an excellent wall that could also threaten opponents with its ghost and dragon typing. Origin Forme Giratina, obtained by holding the Griseous Orb, traded some of that bulk for significantly higher offensive stats, turning it into a mixed attacker capable of running both physical and special moves effectively. The Tau Trio introduced interesting dynamics with their high base stat totals and signature moves that hit incredibly hard. Reshiram's Blue Flare and Zekrom's Bolt Strike were among the strongest attacks in the game, and their abilities, Turbo Blaze and Terravolt, allowed them to ignore abilities that would normally protect opponents from their attacks. This made them excellent wall breakers, capable of punching through defensive cores that relied on abilities like Multiscale or Sturdy. Kyurem's forms, White Kyurem and Black Kyurem, pushed the boundaries of what legendary Pokemon could do. White Kyurem combined Kyurem's ice typing with Reshiram's fire power, gaining access to moves like Fusion Flare and Ice Burn. Black Kyurem combined Kyurem with Zekrom's electric might, gaining access to Fusion Bolt and Freeze Shock. These forms had some of the highest offensive stats in the game, making them terrifying threats that required specific counters. The Aura Trio brought the Fairy type into legendary Pokemon for the first time. Xerneas's ability, Fairy Aura, boosted the power of all Fairy type moves on the field, including those of its opponents. This made Xerneas teams often mirror matches, where positioning and prediction were crucial. Xerneas' signature move, Geomancy, was a setup move that boosted its special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages all at once, but required a turn to charge. With a Power Herb, which allowed geomancy to be used instantly. Xerneas could set up and sweep in a single turn, making it one of the most feared sweepers in the game. Yveltal's Dark Aura ability boosted dark type moves, and its signature move, Oblivion Wing, not only dealt damage, but also healed Yveltal for a portion of the damage dealt. This sustain made Yveltal difficult to wear down over time, and its excellent defensive typing, while weak to common types like Fairy and Electric, gave it resistances that allowed it to check important threats. Zygarde's multiple forms added complexity to team building. Complete Form Zygarde, while requiring specific conditions to activate, had stat totals that exceeded even other legendary Pokémon, making it a juggernaut once it transformed. Its signature move, Thousand Arrows, was unique in that it could hit flying types and Pokémon with Levitate, grounding them and making them vulnerable to ground type moves afterward. This utility made Zygarde valuable even beyond its raw power. The Guardian Deities introduced the terrain setting abilities to legendary Pokemon. Tapu Koko's Electric Surge set electric terrain automatically, boosting electric type moves and preventing sleep. Tapu Lele's Psychic Surge set psychic terrain, boosting psychic moves and blocking priority moves. Tapu Bulu's Grassy Surge set grassy terrain, boosting grass moves and providing gradual healing. Tapu Fini's Misty Surge set misty terrain, reducing the power of dragon moves and preventing spinning status conditions. These abilities, combined with the Tapu's unique fairy typing and strong offensive stats, made them staples of competitive play across multiple formats. Tapu Koko's speed and ability to pivot with U-turn made it an excellent lead and momentum generator. Tapu Lele's ability to block priority moves like Aqua Jet and Mach Punch made it a menace to offensive teams that relied on such moves to revenge kill threats. Tapu Bulu's physical attacking prowess with moves like Wood Hammer and Superpower made it a dangerous wall breaker. Tapu Fini's balanced stats and supportive moveset made it a reliable defensive pivot. Solgaleo and Lunala introduced unique signature abilities with their Full Metal Body and Shadow Shield. Full Metal Body prevented Solgaleo's stats from being lowered by opponent moves, making it immune to Intimidate and moves like Snarl or Icy Wind that would normally reduce its offensive potential. Shadow Shield reduced damage taken with Soul when Solgaleo was at full health, giving it survivability against attacks that would otherwise OHKO it. These abilities, combined with their signature moves that ignored opposing abilities, made them powerful and versatile options. Necrozma's Ultra form, Ultra Necrozma, had a base to stat total of 754, the highest of any Pokemon outside of Mega Evolutions and Primal Reversions. Its Neuroforce ability boosted the power of super effective moves even further, turning it into an overwhelming offensive threat that could OHKO almost anything it hit for super effective damage. However, its poor defensive typing as a Psychic and Dragon type made it vulnerable to priority moves and common offensive types, requiring careful play to maximize its potential. Zacian and Zamazenta from Generation 8 became immediate staples of competitive play, with Zacian in particular being considered one of the strongest Pokemon ever released. Zacian Crowned, its powered-up form when holding the Rusted Sword, had the Intrepid Sword ability, which raised its attack by one stage when it entered battle. Combined with its already sky-high attack stat and access to Behemoth Blade, a steel-type move that doubled in power against Dynamax Pokemon, Zacian could devastate teams with ease. Zamazenta Crowned, while not as offensively dominant as Zacian, had incredible physical bulk and the Dauntless Shield ability, which raised its defense when entering battle. This made it an excellent physical wall that could also threaten opponents with its fighting type coverage and access to moves like Close, Combat, and Crunch. Calyrex, in its Shadow Rider form, became one of the fastest and most powerful special attackers in the game. Its ability, as one, combined the effects of Unnerve and Grim Neigh, the latter of which boosted its special attack every time it knocked out an opponent. This snowball effect meant that if Shadow Rider Calyrex got even one knockout, it could sweep entire teams. Its signature move, Astral Barrage, hit both opponents in doubles formats, making it particularly oppressive in VGC, the official competitive format. The strategies surrounding legendary Pokemon are not limited to their individual power, but extend to how they synergize with teammates and counter common threats. Team archetypes like Hyper Offense, Balance, Stall, and Weather based teams all utilize legendary Pokemon in different ways. Hyper Offense teams might use multiple legendary Pokemon to overwhelm opponents with raw power, setting up with moves like Swords Dance or Nasty Plot, and attempting to sweep before the opponent can respond. Balanced teams use legendary Pokemon as either offensive pivots or defensive cores, switching in and out to maintain momentum while checking key threats. A balanced team might include Landora's Therian for its ground immunity and intimidate ability, Tapu Fini for its defensive typing and misty terrain support, and a sweeper like Zekrom to clean up late game once walls have been worn down. Stall teams, which focus on wearing down opponents over time through residual damage and defensive play, often use legendary Pokemon with high defensive stats and recovery moves. Giratina Altered, with its access to Roost and Will-O-Wisp, can frustrate physical attackers while slowly chipping away at their health. Lugia with Toxic and Roost can outstall many opponents, relying on poison damage to eventually knock them out. Weather teams built around Groudon or Kyogre leverage their weather-setting abilities to empower other team members. A Groudon team might include Blaziken, which gains a significant boost to its fire attacks under Sun, or Venusaur, which can use instant solar beams to threaten water and ground types. A Kyogre team might run Thunder users like Thundurus or Zapdos, which gain perfect accuracy under rain, or swift swim sweepers like Kingdra that double their speed in rainy conditions. Trick Room teams, which reverse the speed order so that slower Pokemon move first, can make use of slow but powerful legendary Pokemon like Dialga or Groudon. These Pokemon, which would normally be outsped by faster threats, become incredibly dangerous under Trick Room, as they can attack first and potentially knock out opponents before they have a chance to respond. The psychological aspect of battling with legendary Pokemon cannot be understated. Seeing a legendary Pokemon on the opponent's team preview immediately signals that the match will be challenging, forcing players to reevaluate their strategy and identify which of their Pokemon can handle the threat. This mind game extends throughout the battle, with players trying to predict switches, bait moves, and create favorable matchups. Double Battles and VGC, the official competitive format used in Pokemon World Championships, have their own unique dynamics when it comes to legendary Pokemon. Restricted formats, which allow a limited number of legendary Pokemon per team, create diverse metagames where players must decide which legendary Pokemon to build around. The interaction between legendary Pokemon and their partners, the use of spread moves that hit both opponents, and the ability to redirect attacks with moves like Follow Me or Rage Powder all add layers of complexity that make VGC a deeply strategic format. Common pairings in VGC have included Kyogre and Xerneas, leveraging water-type attacks boosted by Rain, and Fairy-type attacks boosted by Fairy Aura. Groudon and Ho-Oh teams use sun-boosted fire attacks to overwhelm opponents. Zacian, paired with Incineroar, which can use Intimidate and Parting Shot to weaken opponents, while Zacian sets up, has been a dominant core. Calyrex Shadow alongside Whimsicott, which can use Tailwind to boost the team's speed further, and support with moves like Taunt and Fake Tears, has seen significant success. The role of legendary Pokemon in shaping the metagame extends beyond their presence on teams. They also define what other Pokemon are viable based on whether they can check or counter legendary threats. Pokemon like Ferrothorn, which resists many of the types legendary Pokemon commonly use, or Blissey, which can sponge special attacks and heal itself, owe much of their usage to their ability to handle legendary Pokemon. This interdependence creates a dynamic metagame, where changes to one Pokemon's viability ripple outward, affecting dozens of others. The history of legendary Pokemon bans and restrictions in competitive formats is a fascinating subject in itself. Smogon, one of the largest competitive Pokemon communities, has spent decades refining its tiering system to create balanced and enjoyable formats. Decisions about which legendary Pokemon to ban from OU, the standard competitive tier, often spark heated debates within the community, with players arguing about what constitutes over centralization versus healthy metagame diversity. Some legendary Pokemon, like Manaphy, have been the subject of extensive discussion due to their unique traits. Manaphy's access to Tail Glow, which raises special attack by 3 stages, combined with its decent bulk and water typing, made it a potent setup sweeper. However, its reliance on setup and vulnerability to priority moves kept it from being overwhelmingly dominant, placing it in a gray area where different players had different opinions on its place in the tier list. Greninja, while not a legendary Pokemon, is worth mentioning due to its Ash Greninja form, which functioned similarly to legendary Pokemon in terms of power level. The debate over whether Ash Greninja was too strong for OU highlighted the challenges of balancing Pokemon with transformation mechanics and the thin line between a healthy metagame staple and an over-centralizing threat. The introduction of Dynamax in Generation 8 temporarily shook up competitive play, as any Pokemon could Dynamax and gain boosted HP, increased power, and secondary effects on their moves. Legendary Pokemon that Dynamaxed became nearly unstoppable, leading to Dynamax being banned in many Smogon formats while remaining central to VGC. This divergence between formats showed that different communities could have different preferences for how Pokemon battles should be structured. Legendary Pokemon have also been at the center of memorable moments in competitive Pokemon history. The first official World Championships featured teams built around legendary Pokemon like Kyogre and Groudon, with players showcasing innovative strategies that would influence competitive play for years to come. Famous players like Sejun Park, who won the World Championships with a Pachirisu on his team supporting his legendary Pokemon, showed that success in competitive Pokemon was not just about using the strongest Pokemon, but about creativity, prediction, and teamwork. The Pokemon Company's approach to distributing legendary Pokemon through events has evolved significantly over time. In the early generations, events were rare and often region specific, requiring players to attend specific locations or participate in special promotions to obtain mythical Pokemon. This exclusivity made these Pokemon incredibly valuable and sought after, but it also meant that many players, especially those outside major metropolitan areas or specific countries, had no way to obtain them. Generation 4 marked a shift toward more accessible distribution methods, with Mystery Gift allowing players to receive event Pokemon wirelessly without needing to visit a physical location. This democratization of legendary Pokemon distribution was further expanded in Generation 6 with internet-based distributions, where players could download event Pokemon directly from home. This made legendary Pokemon more accessible than ever before, ensuring that players worldwide could experience the full roster of these special creatures. Special events tied to movies, anniversaries, and real world celebrations have introduced legendary Pokemon with unique moves or abilities that they could not normally learn. A Mewtwo distributed during the release of the Mewtwo Strikes Back remake came with the move Sistrike, its signature move that dealt physical damage based on special attack. A Zacian distributed during the Pokemon Sword and Shield Championship Series came with the move Behemoth Bash, which it normally could not learn until it held the rusted sword. These event distributions often included other special traits, such as being in cherished balls, having specific natures or abilities, or coming with held items like gold bottle caps or rare berries. Collecting these event legendary Pokemon became a hobby in itself for many players, with online communities dedicated to trading and cataloging event distributions from different regions and time periods. The shiny hunting community has extended its passion to legendary Pokemon, despite the often prohibitive difficulty of obtaining shiny versions of these rare creatures. In many games, legendary Pokemon are shiny locked, meaning they cannot be encountered in their shiny form through normal gameplay. However, event distributions occasionally include shiny legendary Pokemon, and certain games allow soft resetting in front of legendary Pokemon to hunt for shinies the old fashioned way. The dedication required to shiny hunt legendary Pokemon is immense, with some hunts taking thousands of resets over weeks or even months. The moment when a shiny legendary Pokemon finally appears on screen is one of pure jubilation for hunters, a payoff that justifies the countless hours spent resetting. Shiny legendary Pokemon, with their alternate color schemes, are considered the ultimate trophies, proof of both luck and perseverance. Certain shiny legendary Pokemon have become particularly iconic. Shiny Rayquaza, with its black body and red accents, looks even more menacing than its regular green form. Shiny Giratina, with platinum and gold coloring, appears even more regal and otherworldly. Shiny Zacian, with its cyan accents replacing the standard magenta, offers a striking visual that stands out in battle. The lore implications of shiny Pokemon, especially legendary ones, have sparked fan theories about what they represent. Some believe that shiny legendary Pokemon are individuals with unique genetic mutations, while others suggest that they are alternate dimension versions of the Pokemon, tied to the multiverse concepts introduced in games like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and further explored in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. The concept of multiple universes within Pokemon canon has interesting implications for legendary Pokemon. If there are infinite universes, are there infinite versions of each legendary Pokemon, or are legendary Pokemon unique across all dimensions? The appearance of alternate versions of legendary Pokemon, like the different forms of Giratina or the Galarian legendary birds, suggests that legendary archetypes can manifest differently depending on the universe, but whether these are the same beings or separate entities remains ambiguous. This ambiguity is part of what makes legendary Pokemon so compelling from a lore perspective. They exist at the intersection of myth and reality within the Pokemon world, beings whose true nature is never fully explained and may never need to be. The mystery is part of the appeal, allowing players to fill in the gaps with their own interpretations and theories. As we approach the end of our journey through legendary Pokemon lore, it is worth reflecting on how these creatures have grown alongside the Pokemon franchise itself. From the simple but effective legendary birds of Generation 1 to the complex, multi-formed legendary Pokemon of modern generations, each new iteration has built upon what came before while introducing new ideas and mechanics. Legendary Pokemon represent the pinnacle of what Pokemon can be, creatures that push the boundaries of power, design, and storytelling. They challenge players to think strategically, to explore thoroughly and to engage with the deeper lore of the Pokemon world. They create moments of excitement and triumph that stay with players for years, memories of finally capturing that elusive legendary after countless attempts, or of achieving victory in a crucial battle thanks to the power of a legendary team member. The bond between trainers and legendary Pokemon is unique because it is earned rather than given. Unlike regular Pokemon that can be caught with minimal effort, legendary Pokemon demand respect, preparation, and often a bit of luck. But once that bond is formed, once a legendary Pokemon is part of your team, it becomes more than just a powerful ally. It becomes a symbol of your achievement, a testament to your dedication as a trainer. Looking forward, the future of legendary Pokemon is filled with possibilities. New generations will undoubtedly introduce new legendary Pokemon with their own unique designs, abilities, and lore. The technology will continue to advance, allowing for even more immersive and spectacular presentations of these incredible creatures. But the core of what makes legendary Pokemon special, their rarity, their power, and their connection to the mythology of their regions, will remain constant. The impact of legendary Pokemon on popular culture cannot be overstated. These creatures have transcended their origins as video game characters to become cultural icons recognized around the world. Mewtwo's silhouette is instantly recognizable, even to those who have never played a Pokemon game. Lugia's graceful design has appeared on everything from clothing to home decor. Rayquaza's serpentine form has been reproduced in countless pieces of fan art and official merchandise. In Japan, where Pokemon originated, legendary Pokemon hold a special place in the cultural consciousness. They have been featured in festivals, parades, and special events that celebrate Japanese pop culture. Regional Pokemon centers, specialty stores dedicated to Pokemon merchandise, often feature legendary Pokemon as the centerpiece of their displays, with life size statues and special exclusive products that draw collectors from around the world. The collaboration between Pokemon and various Japanese prefectures has resulted in special promotional campaigns where certain legendary Pokemon are designated as ambassadors for specific regions. These campaigns often tie into local history and mythology, drawing parallels between the legendary Pokemon and traditional folk tales from those areas. For example, a campaign might feature Ho-Oh in connection with a region known for its historical temples, or Kyogre in a coastal prefecture with strong ties to the sea. Western audiences have embraced legendary Pokemon with equal enthusiasm, though sometimes in different ways. The competitive Pokemon scene, while strong in Japan, has seen tremendous growth in Western countries, with major tournaments drawing thousands of participants and spectators. Legendary Pokemon feature prominently in these competitions, with players traveling from around the world to test their strategies against the best trainers on the planet. The speedrunning community has also developed interesting relationships with legendary Pokemon. Speedrunners who attempt to complete Pokemon games as quickly as possible often skip legendary encounters or use glitches to manipulate legendary Pokemon spawns in ways that save time. The optimization required to speedrun Pokemon games at the highest level has led to the discovery of numerous tricks and strategies involving legendary Pokemon, from manipulating RNG to guarantee captures to routing around mandatory legendary encounters in ways the developers never intended. The Pokemon Nuzlocke Challenge, a self-imposed set of rules that makes Pokemon games more difficult by limiting captures and enforcing permanent death for fainted Pokemon, creates unique dynamics around legendary Pokemon. In most Nuzlocke runs, legendary Pokemon are either banned or subject to special restrictions, as their power level can trivialize the challenge. However, Some Nuzlocke variants allow legendary Pokemon under specific conditions, creating memorable moments when a player successfully captures and uses a legendary to overcome a particularly difficult challenge. The randomizer community, which uses tools to randomize various aspects of Pokemon games, including which Pokemon appear where, has created scenarios where legendary Pokemon can appear in unexpected places. The possibility of encountering a Mewtwo in the opening route or finding a Rayquaza in a random trainer's party adds unpredictability and excitement to these modified playthroughs, showing how legendary Pokemon can create memorable moments even outside their intended contexts. The relationship between legendary Pokemon and the Pokemon anime has been complex and evolving. In the early seasons, legendary Pokemon were treated as near mythical beings that Ash and his friends might glimpse, but rarely interact with directly. The sight of Ho-Oh flying overhead in the first episode set the tone for this approach, with legendary Pokemon existing as distant, awe inspiring presences that signaled the vastness of the Pokemon world. As the anime progressed, legendary Pokemon became more central to movie plots and special episodes. Films like The Power of One featured Lugia as a character with dialogue and personality, while Jirachi, Wishmaker, gave its titular legendary Pokemon a childlike innocence that made it endearing to audiences. These portrayals humanized legendary Pokemon without diminishing their power, showing that being legendary did not mean being distant or unapproachable. Later seasons of the anime have featured legendary Pokemon more prominently in the main storyline, with characters occasionally battling against or alongside legendary Pokemon. The Sinnoh region arc featured several episodes involving the Lake Guardians and the Creation Trio, while the Kakalos arc incorporated Xerneas and Yveltal into the climax of the Team Flare storyline. These appearances helped reinforce the connection between the anime and the games, showing that the legendary Pokemon players encountered were part of a larger, cohesive universe. The Pokemon Journeys series took this even further by featuring legendary Pokemon more regularly, with Go capturing several legendary Pokemon, including Suicune. This marked a significant shift from previous seasons, where legendary captures were extremely rare and treated as monumental events. While this approach made legendary Pokemon more accessible within the anime's narrative, it also sparked debate among fans about whether it diminished the special status of legendary Pokemon. The Pokemon manga, particularly Pokemon Adventures, has offered yet another interpretation of legendary Pokemon. In this series, legendary Pokemon are treated with reverence, but are also shown to be capturable and usable by skilled trainers. The manga does not shy away from showing the darker side of legendary Pokemon power, with villains attempting to control legendary Pokemon for destructive purposes and heroes needing to make difficult choices about whether to use legendary Pokemon to counter these threats. Pokemon Adventures has featured some of the most dramatic legendary Pokemon battles in any Pokemon media, with multi chapter arcs dedicated to conflicts involving the legendary birds, the Tower Duo, the Creation Trio, and others. The manga's willingness to show legendary Pokemon in extended combat, taking damage and being pushed to their limits, gives them a different kind of gravitas than their appearances in the games or anime. The various Pokemon spin off manga series have also explored legendary Pokemon from unique angles. Pokemon Ranger manga featured legendary Pokemon as wild creatures that rangers needed to calm rather than capture, while the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon manga showed legendary Pokemon as potential team members or allies in a world where humans do not exist. These alternate interpretations have enriched the tapestry of legendary Pokemon lore, showing how these creatures can be adapted to fit different storytelling formats and genres. The music associated with legendary Pokemon has become some of the most beloved in all of video game soundtracks. Composers like Junichi Masuda, Go Ichinose, Shota Kageyama, and Toby Fox have crafted themes that perfectly capture the essence of legendary encounters. The tension, the grandeur, the sense that something momentous is happening, all of these emotions are conveyed through carefully constructed melodies and harmonies. The evolution of legendary battle themes across generations reflects both technological advancement and changing compositional approaches. The Game Boy's limited sound chip produced the iconic but simple legendary battle theme of Generation 1 with its urgent tempo and repeating motifs. The Game Boy Advance allowed for more complex arrangements, with the Hoenn Legendary Battle theme incorporating multiple layers of instrumentation that created a fuller, more cinematic sound. The Nintendo DS era brought even richer compositions, with the Sinnoh Legendary Battle theme being particularly praised for its use of orchestral elements and dramatic crescendos. The 3DS games featured fully orchestrated tracks, and by the time of the Nintendo Switch, legendary battle themes incorporated live instruments and complex arrangements that would not have been out of place in a movie soundtrack. Certain legendary battle themes have achieved iconic status beyond the games themselves. The Giratina battle theme from Pokemon Platinum, with its distorted, unsettling quality, perfectly captured the otherworldly nature of the distortion world. The Ultra Necrozma battle theme's intensity and urgency conveyed the desperation of facing an opponent that seemed unbeatable. The Volo and Giratina battle theme from Pokemon Legends Arceus combined multiple motifs to create one of the most complex and layered battle themes in the series. Fans have created countless covers, remixes, and arrangements of legendary battle themes, from metal versions that emphasize the aggression and power to piano arrangements that highlight the melodic beauty underlying the combat intensity. Orchestral concerts featuring Pokemon music often include legendary battle themes as highlights, with live audiences experiencing the thrill of these compositions performed by full orchestras. The sound design for legendary Pokemon cries has also been a subject of fascination. Each legendary Pokemon has a unique cry that helps establish its character and presence. Mewtwo's cry is harsh and aggressive, Lugia's is deep and resonant, like the call of a whale, and Rayquaza's is a roar that seems to echo from distant heights. These cries are carefully designed to be memorable and distinct, contributing to the overall identity of each legendary Pokemon. The process of creating legendary Pokemon involves collaboration between various departments at Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. Concept artists sketch at initial designs, often creating dozens of variations before settling on a final look. These designs then go through refinement, with adjustments to proportions, colors, and details to ensure they feel both powerful and balanced. The inspiration for legendary Pokemon designs comes from diverse sources. Mythology from around the world provides a rich foundation, with creatures from Japanese, Chinese, Greek, Norse, and other mythologies being referenced in legendary Pokemon designs. Natural phenomena like auroras, weather patterns, and celestial bodies also inspire legendary Pokemon, as do architectural elements, scientific concepts, and abstract ideas like time and space. The design philosophy for legendary Pokemon has shifted somewhat over the generations. Earlier legendary Pokemon tended towards simpler, more iconic designs that could be easily recognized and reproduced. Later generations have embraced more complex designs with additional details, accessories, and forms, reflecting advances in graphical capability and a desire to create visually stunning creatures that take full advantage of modern hardware. Some fans prefer the cleaner, more streamlined designs of earlier legendary Pokemon, while others appreciate the intricate details of modern designs. This diversity of opinion reflects the subjective nature of aesthetic preferences and the challenge of pleasing a fan base that spans multiple generations with different expectations and nostalgia for different eras. The marketing of legendary Pokemon has been a crucial part of each generation's promotional campaign. Legendary Pokemon are typically revealed gradually in the lead up to a new game's release, with early trailers showing silhouettes or brief glimpses before full reveals closer to launch. This slow reveal builds anticipation and gives fans something to speculate about, creating organic buzz and discussion within the community. Cover legendaries, the Pokemon featured on game boxes, receive particular attention in marketing campaigns. Their designs are often used in promotional materials, store displays, and special edition hardware. Limited edition consoles featuring legendary Pokemon designs have become collector's items, with special Switch consoles featuring Zacian and Zamazenta, or themed 3DS XL systems, with Ho-Oh and Lugia being particularly sought after. The merchandise opportunities surrounding legendary Pokemon are vast. Plush toys ranging from small keychain sized versions to massive display pieces allow fans to own physical representations of their favorite legendary Pokemon. Figures with articulated joints and interchangeable parts appeal to collectors who appreciate detailed, posable models. Action figures designed for play rather than display give children the chance to recreate battles and adventures with their favorite legendary Pokemon. High end collectibles like statues and resin figures target adult collectors with disposable income, offering museum quality representations of legendary Pokemon that can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These pieces are often produced in limited quantities, making them valuable investments for serious collectors. The secondary market for rare legendary Pokemon merchandise can be substantial, with certain items appreciating significantly in value over time. Clothing featuring legendary Pokemon has ranged from simple graphic tees to high fashion collaborations. Streetwear brands have partnered with the Pokemon Company to create limited edition apparel featuring stylized legendary Pokemon designs, appealing to fashion conscious fans who want to express their love of Pokemon in a more mature, sophisticated way. These collaborations often sell out quickly and become status symbols within certain communities. The educational value of legendary Pokemon should not be overlooked. For many children, legendary Pokemon serve as gateways to learning about mythology, science, and geography. A child fascinated by Gruden might become interested in volcanoes and plate tectonics. A fan of the creation trio might develop curiosity about cosmology and the nature of the universe. Interest in the cultural origins of legendary Pokemon like Ho-Oh can lead to exploration of world religions and folklore. Teachers and educators have occasionally used Pokemon, including legendary Pokemon, as teaching tools to engage students. Math problems involving catching legendary Pokemon, reading comprehension exercises based on Pokemon lore, and creative writing assignments asking students to design their own legendary Pokemon all leverage the existing interest and knowledge students have to make learning more engaging and relevant. The philosophical and ethical questions raised by legendary Pokemon have been explored in academic contexts as well. Papers analyzing the ethics of capturing and using legendary Pokemon, the environmental themes present in storylines involving legendary Pokemon, and the representation of power and responsibility in Pokemon narratives have appeared in journals and presented at conferences dedicated to video game studies. As the evening deepens and this journey through legendary Pokemon lore comes to a close, we can reflect on how these extraordinary creatures have shaped not just the Pokemon franchise, but gaming culture as a whole. They represent the best of what video games can offer: memorable characters, engaging challenges, rich lore, and experiences that stay with players long after the console is turned off. The stories we have explored tonight, from the tragic origin of the legendary beasts to the cosmic significance of the creation trio, from the elemental fury of the weather trio to the temporal paradoxes of Coridon and Miraidon, all contribute to a mythology that rivals any found in literature or film. These are stories worth telling, worth preserving, and worth passing down to future generations of trainers. Legendary Pokémon remind us that within every game, there can be moments of genuine wonder. The first time you encounter a legendary Pokémon, the screen glowing with its presence, the music swelling with dramatic intensity, time seems to slow. In that moment, the hours of gameplay, the careful preparation, the strategies planned and replanned, all culminate in a single, crystalline moment of possibility. Will you catch it? Will it flee? Will this be the beginning of a new partnership or just another entry in the Pokedex? These questions create tension and excitement, transforming what could be a simple button press into something meaningful, something worth remembering. As trainers, we are united by our shared experiences with legendary Pokemon. We may have started our journeys in different generations, in different regions, with different starter Pokemon, but we have all stood before a legendary Pokemon and felt that same mixture of excitement and nervousness. We have all celebrated successful captures and mourned accidental knockouts. We have all debated which legendary Pokemon is the strongest, the coolest, the most interesting. These shared experiences create bonds between trainers that transcend age, geography, and language. A trainer from Japan and a trainer from Brazil might not speak the same language, but they both understand the thrill of encountering Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. A child playing Pokemon Sword in 2024 and an adult who played Pokemon Red in 1998 can connect over their mutual appreciation for legendary Pokemon despite the decades between their experiences. Looking ahead to future generations, we can only imagine what legendary Pokemon await discovery. What new types might they introduce? What new forms might they take? What new mechanics will they bring to competitive play? What new stories will they tell? The answers to these questions are still being written, still being designed, still waiting to be revealed to an eager audience of trainers, young and old. But no matter what the future holds, the legendary Pokemon we have discussed tonight will remain iconic, beloved pieces of gaming history. They are the foundation upon which future legendary Pokemon will build, the standard against which new designs will be measured, and the memories that will continue to warm our hearts as we reflect on our journeys through the Pokemon world. As your eyes grow heavy and sleep approaches, let your mind wander through the regions we have visited together. Picture the icy caverns where Articuno dwells, the storm-racked seas where Lugia watches, the towering spire where Rayquaza circles, the distorted landscapes where Giratina lurks. These places, these creatures, this world of Pokemon, they all exist somewhere beyond waking, in that space between imagination and memory where the best stories live forever. Rest now, trainer. Tomorrow, new adventures await. New legendary Pokemon to seek, new challenges to overcome, new bonds to form. The journey never truly ends, it only pauses, giving us time to catch our breath before we set out once more into the vast, wonderful world of Pokemon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through these quiet facts, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Maybe let it play while you rest. You might learn something new before you drift off again.